Hello everybody, and welcome to this guide for Vorago. I really like Vorago. It's a lot of fun to kill, and it's a pretty well designed boss. We quite often kill it as a clan in 4 or 5 man teams, which compared to duos or trios are really relaxed, and just means that you can chill out and have a fun time while still making a pretty good amount of money. In this video I'm just going to go through the basic mechanics of the kill and what you need to know in order to take a DPS role. I'll cover some of the more challenging roles in other videos. To begin with, a quick note on the gear setup. I'm not going to go through the full preset, but I would recommend learning this boss with either mage or range. So you want to bring the best DPS gear you have of that style. For a familiar, you ideally want to be using a nihil, either a smoke nihil for mage or a shadow nihil if you're using range, as that will boost your accuracy, which is quite important on this boss. If you really want to, you can bring a pack yak while you're learning, but that's not really necessary. As you'll see during this fight, as DPS you really don't take very much damage, and you can soul split all of it back, as long as you stay in the right position throughout the fight. To begin with, you all gather in front of Vorago, as you can see us doing here, and somebody will challenge Vorago. You'll then get a pop-up on screen asking you whether or not you want to accept the challenge, and shortly afterwards, everybody who accepted the challenge will take a very big hit and will drop down into the fight. The hit is 50,000 damage split between all the players on the team and capped at 12.5k. So in a 5-man team here we'll be taking 10k each, for 4-man or lower it'll be 12.5k each. The easiest way to handle this is just to use a power burst of vitality. If you use an ability such as reflect immediately after you accept the challenge, then you want to be drinking your power burst, as you can see here, about 14 or 15 seconds after you used the ability. So for reflect, because it has a 30-second cooldown, you'll be drinking the power burst when the timer hits 16. Once you've all dropped down, the base will take Vorago over to the north wall, and you want to find a positioned DPS room that's a couple of squares away from Vorago, so that you're not taking melee hits, but not any further out than that. You can see Sparks Amiga here, who is the person in the red standing a little way out, is taking all the bombs that Vorago throws. The bombs will go to the person who is furthest away from Vorago, so as a DPS role it's really important that you stay closer to Vorago than the person who is bomb tanking, so you don't take unnecessary bomb hits, because they will very quickly kill you if you're not prepared for them. A good position is the one I'm in here, just a few steps away from Vorago, so there's no danger of me taking melee hits, but I'm still significantly closer in than the bomb tank, so he has a lot of freedom to move around as he's dealing with the bombs. This positioning is one of the most important things to learn as a DPS. If you get it right, then the fight is really chilled, you'll barely take any damage and you'll just be able to soul split consistently throughout the entire fight. If you start getting it wrong, then you'll very quickly be taking unnecessary damage and can quickly use up all the food you've brought. Other than that, however, the first phase is very straightforward as a DPS role. We can just chill and DPS the boss, and eventually the TL5 will jump onto Vorago's back, grab the maul piece, and do a little bit more damage to finish the phase. At the end of each phase during this fight, Vorago will jump around the floor 3 times, so just watch out for where he's jumping, and just make sure you stay out of the way of where Vorago's landing, so that you don't take damage from this. You'll then all drop down through the floor as it cracks, and start phase 2. At the beginning of phase 2, Vorago will inflict 5 bleeds. You can see he is smashing the ground here. The base, bomb tank and TL5 will handle those between them, so you don't need to worry about those, but be aware that 3 auto attacks after the final bleed, he will do his first reflect mechanic. When he does this, he will deal any damage he receives to a random member of the team. So it's important that you stop attacking Vorago while he's doing this, to make sure you don't accidentally PK one of your teammates. If in doubt, then definitely play it safe and just get off a couple of attacks early. It's worth mentioning at this point that this is significantly easier to do if you are using full manual rather than Revolution. If you're on Revo, then you need to be really careful to make sure you don't automatically trigger any abilities and inflict damage to one of your teammates. It's also worth mentioning that it's really helpful to be in a voice chat or something similar with the team who you are taking on this boss with, so that you can call stuff like the time when you need to stop attacking Vorago ready for the reflects. You can start attacking Vorago once you see him launch a red bomb, as he's just done here. The cycle of DPS, bleeds, 3 auto attacks, reflect is repeated 4 times throughout this phase. Each time he starts to reflect, one of these red gravity orbs will appear. If that's next to you, then just click it to send it to Vorago. Once he has been hit with 4 of these orbs, you'll enter the final part of the phase. You'll see a bar above Vorago's head saying bring him down, and you want to spam click on Vorago as quickly as possible to fill the bar up. The phase up until here is time gated, because you just need to wait for 4 orbs to have happened, but after you've finished filling this bar up, you want to be doing lots of damage to Vorago to quickly finish the phase. So this is the point you want to put your aura on if you haven't already done so. At the end of the phase, he'll once again do his jumping around, and then you'll be into phase 3. The mechanics for phase 3 vary depending on which rotation Vorago is currently on. The one we're doing here is ceiling collapse, which isn't too bad a rotation to learn on, but you do just have to watch out for the ceilings and try not to get hit by them, because they can kill you if you get caught unawares. For ceiling collapse, as soon as he drops down, you'll see him raise his arm into the air and shoot some rocks up like he's done here. The arena is effectively divided into 9 squares, and rocks will fall on one of those squares. You want to make sure you're not caught underneath them, so just keep an eye for the shadows that will be appearing on the ground, and if they're in the square you're in, then just make sure you move out of the way of it. Vorago will then jump up from where he is and land in a different section of the room. Once he's landed, you want to run in and get close to him, because once again, if you're too far out, then you will start taking bombs, and that's something you want to avoid. If you do get a bomb coming towards you, the important thing is not to panic. You can either use resonance, as I'm doing here, to get a bit of a heal from it, or you can just pray mage to mitigate the damage. Be aware that it will deal AoE damage to anybody who's next to you, so try and move a little bit away from the rest of the DPS pile so they don't get hit by it, but don't panic and start running away from Vorago, because if you do that, you'll get too far away and you will start taking more bombs, which will just make the situation worse. The first time he lands, he will immediately enter a reflect mechanic, as he did in phase 2. Once again, you need to stop attacking Vorago so that you don't accidentally PK any of your teammates. Once the reflect is finished, he'll jump again, so once more dodge the rocks. And at this point you want to be doing really big damage to hopefully try and finish the phase before he does another ceiling collapse. If you're not doing much DPS and he gets lots of rocks during this phase, then it starts to become really difficult to move around the arena, and you'll have to clear some of the rock piles, which will mean additional damage. If the phase does keep going though, just be aware that he will do a reflect mechanic after every odd-numbered ceiling collapse, so after the first, the third, the fifth, and so on, though hopefully you won't get that many. Once you've brought Vorago down to 0 health, he will again start jumping around and you will phase through into phase 4. Be aware that on the drop down here, any piles of rocks that were left over at the end of phase 3 will drop down with you, so make sure you stay away from those sections so that you don't get caught under the rocks. At the beginning of phase 4, you will get a message about Vorago channeling a massive attack, and a waterfall will appear in one of the 4 corners of the room. You need to go and stand behind this waterfall. If there is a rock in the way, then somebody needs to clear it. Feel free to do this yourself if you have reasonably high health. Just be aware you will take a 4k hit from doing it. Make sure you're all the way in the corner behind the waterfall, and then once you're there, you can start spam clicking Vorago. This will mean that as soon as he has finished his attack and he becomes attackable once more, you will run in immediately and start attacking him. It's important to get in quickly so that you don't start taking bombs. The only exception to this is if your team is doing the clone skip method, which I might cover in another video, but I'm not going to go into here. Shortly after the waterfall attack has happened, Vorago will summon a stone clone. The stone clone can only be killed by the person it is a clone of, so if it's your one and appears next to you, just make sure you kill it as quickly as possible. Drop a couple of thresholds on it if you need. As you can see here, we're doing significantly reduced damage to Vorago while the stone clone is out. Shortly after the stone clone has appeared, he will repeat whichever mechanic he's doing, so in this case he will do another ceiling collapse, so mind out of the way of that. After the ceiling collapse, he will do 5 bleeds, and a few attacks after the bleeds, he will do his usual reflect mechanic. So once again, be ready for that. Make sure you stop attacking him early so that you don't hit any of your teammates. Again, this phase is a little bit time gated. The waterfall attack will repeat twice more, and after the third and final waterfall, You just DPS Vorago down, and the phase will finish once he hits 0 health, and then you will be into phase 5. Now, phase 5 can be where many Vorago kills fail, particularly when you're still learning or if you don't have great DPS. The way phase 5 works is essentially a reverse tug of war. The aim of the players is to push Vorago all the way back to the far side of the ledge. Once he gets there, the TL5 will finish Vorago off by hitting him with the assembled Maul of Omens. At the same time, Vorago will be trying to push players back to their side of the ledge. If he gets you all the way to the back, then you will all be insta-killed, and there is no way of mitigating this. You push Vorago back every time you deal damage to him. He pushes you back every time he deals damage to you. So there are two important things during this phase. Firstly, you just want to deal really good DPS to Vorago. If you hit him hard enough, you can finish this phase super quickly without really having to worry about any of the mechanics. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you are not taking any unnecessary damage. Once again, positioning is important here. Generally speaking, the DPS pile will stand on the south wall, as you can see we're doing here, and the bomb tank will stand on the north wall. They'll try and stay far back, so they are taking all the bombs, and they will deal with them. That means you shouldn't be taking any hits, as long as you don't get within melee distance of Vorago, and just keep moving back with Vorago as you push him back along the ledge. For this rotation, he will open with a team split, which is a mechanic from one of the other rotations. It's pretty straightforward. Essentially, you will get a message on screen, and your character will turn either red or blue. You want to go and stand in the box that matches the colour of your character or the message. So you can see I've got a blue message here, and my character has turned blue, so I'm going to go and stand in the blue box, and wait there until his attack has finished. If you miss the box, you take a 9k hit. Once the team split has finished, you want to hit him with a few big attacks, ideally trying to push him really far back, and you can maybe even finish the phase right then. But be aware that after 3 auto attacks after the team split, Vorago will do his reflect. So make sure you're ready for that, and that you stop attacking Vorago when the reflect happens, so that you don't accidentally kill one of your teammates. After the reflect, he will start inflicting bleeds on you. If you get a bleed, which you can see by the dismember icon in the debuff bar, which has appeared for me here, you need to make sure you clear it, because if you keep taking tick damage, then that will mean Vorago pushes you and the rest of your team back, and it will make it harder to finish the kill. The first bleed you can clear with freedom. If you get a second bleed, then you can clear it by getting 6 squares away from Vorago, by either escaping or surging backwards. And in larger teams you're very unlikely to get a third bleed, but if you do, then you can clear that by barging, surging or bladed diving back forwards towards Vorago, once again moving away from the square you were in when you took the bleed. And hopefully, if your team is doing reasonably good DPS, then pretty shortly after this you will have pushed Vorago all the way back to the edge, and you get a nice little cutscene of the TL5 killing Vorago with the Maul. If you don't get him back too quickly, that's fine. As long as you don't panic, you'll still be able to complete the kill. It will just take you a little bit longer. Be aware that he will rotate the cycle of team split into reflect into bleeds throughout the kill, so do remember to deal with each of those mechanics as they happen. And that's it. As a learner, you're unlikely to be getting any drops. They go to the bomb tank, the base tank, and the person who did the highest DPS. But that's not something to worry about. When we go as a clan, we generally split all the tectonic energies we get, which means if you're getting consistent kills, you will be making really good money from this, even if you're not the person getting the drops. Each tectonic energy at the moment is going for around 1.7, 1.8 mil, so it's pretty easy to make some really good money killing this boss. Thank you very much for watching the guide. As I said, I may cover some of the other rotations, and also make some guides on doing the base, bomb tank and TL5 rolls in future videos, so do keep an eye out for those. Thank you for watching. I will see you for the next video.